Ambassador Jiwoo stood in the Grand Council chamber, looking at the rows of alien delegates before her. She had prepared for this moment for 3 years. The thick folder in her hands contained humanity's formal request for equal representation in the Galactic Council. Earth had served the Council for 47 years. They had earned this right. The chamber was beautiful in a cold way. Crystal walls reached up toward a domed ceiling that showed the stars beyond. Hundreds of alien species sat in curved rows, their forms strange and varied. Some had scales, others had fur or smooth skin in colors humans had never seen on Earth. They all looked at Jiwoo with the same expression. Boredom. She began her presentation. Her voice was steady and clear. She spoke about Earth's contributions to the Council. Human engineers maintained 80% of the station systems across Council space. Human pilots flew the dangerous routes that others avoided. Human doctors worked in clinics on every major world. Human teachers educated alien children. Human farmers helped feed billions. The numbers were impressive. Earth provided more services to the Council than any 3 other species combined. Yet humans had no vote. They could not make laws. They could not decide policy. They were servants, nothing more. Jiwoo finished her presentation and waited. The silence stretched long. Then Chairman Vexthor began to laugh. It was a wet, bubbling sound from his 3 mouths. Other delegates joined in. The chamber filled with the sounds of alien amusement. "You misunderstand your place, human," Vexthor said. His translator made his words flat and emotionless, but Jiwoo could hear the contempt underneath. "You provide useful services. This is true. But you are not our equals. You are functional, adequate, nothing special." Councillor Reshipa stood up. He was a tall being covered in purple plates. "The Council has thousands of species. We cannot give everyone a vote. Only the truly exceptional earn that honor. Humans are worker beings. Be content with your role." Jiwoo felt heat rise in her chest, but she kept her face calm. "We have proven our value over decades of service. What more must we do?" Vexthor waved a limb dismissively. "Perhaps in another century we will discuss this again. For now, return to your duties. The Council has important matters to address, important matters." Jiwoo had seen the agenda. They were voting on the color scheme for the new diplomatic gardens. She gathered her folder and bowed slightly, not in respect but in acknowledgement. She turned and walked out of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. Outside, her aide Tae-hyun waited. He was a young man who managed the communications network for the eastern sectors. He saw her face and knew immediately how the meeting had gone. "They refused," he said quietly. "Worse." They laughed. Tae-hyun's jaw tightened. "What do we do now?" Jiwoo looked out the window at the busy station corridor. Humans rushed past, carrying equipment, pushing cargo, fixing broken panels. Always working. Always serving. Never valued. "We go home," she said. That night, Jiwoo sent an encrypted message to Earth. It was short, just 3 words and a date. The response came back within an hour. Confirmed. The plan was approved. Over the next 72 hours, every human in Council space received a coded message. They were given simple instructions. Pack your personal belongings only. Complete your current shift. Then leave quietly. Tell no one. Make no announcements. Just go. Tae-hyun was one of the first. He worked in the Central Communications Hub on Station Prime. He had spent 6 years maintaining the quantum relay network that connected thousands of worlds. He knew every line of code, every hardware shortcut, every backup system. The aliens he worked with barely spoke to him. They thought the work happened by magic. On his last shift, Tae-hyun completed his scheduled maintenance. He backed up the essential systems and left detailed logs. He did not sabotage anything. He simply stopped showing up. When his shift ended, he walked to his quarters, packed his single bag, and took a shuttle to the nearest human transport ship. Hae-won was an engineer on the Vrillon shipyards. She designed the gravity systems for the massive vessels the Council built. She was brilliant at her work. The Vrillon acknowledged this by paying her slightly more than minimum wage. On the day she received the message, she finished calibrating a new cruiser's systems. She uploaded her final report. Then she left. Her Vrillon supervisor found her quarters empty the next morning. All her tools were neatly arranged. Her workstation was clean. There was no note, no explanation. She was simply gone. Dongmin ran a trading company that moved goods between 50 systems. His ships were always on time. His prices were fair. He had contracts with dozens of alien corporations. When he got the message, he recalled every ship. He canceled every contract. He paid out his alien employees with generous severance. Then he and his entire human crew departed. The aliens barely noticed at first. A few humans missing here and there seemed normal. People took vacations. People got sick. But as days passed, the absences multiplied. Station managers realized their human staff were gone. All of them. Shipyards found their human engineers missing. Hospitals discovered their human doctors had vanished. On the 5th day, Council Security brought the matter to Chairman Vexthor. He was annoyed but not concerned. Send them messages, he ordered. Tell them to return to their duties or face contract penalties. The messages went out. There were no responses. Human communication channels were silent. Empty. Every attempt to contact Earth was ignored. On the 7th day, Vexthor called an emergency session. The council chamber was full, but now the delegates looked worried instead of bored. This is clearly a coordinated protest, HFY said. They want to pressure us into giving them representation. We must not give in to this manipulation. Agreed, Vexthor said. They will return when they run out of money. Humans are not wealthy. They need these jobs. We simply wait. But in the back of the chamber, a few delegates were not so sure. They had worked closely with humans. They had seen how much the humans actually did, and they were starting to feel afraid. Ambassador Miran, who had returned to Earth, sat in a conference room in Seoul. She watched the galactic news feeds with other human leaders. The aliens were calling the exodus a tantrum, a childish protest. They were confident the humans would crawl back soon. Miran smiled. It was not a kind smile. Let them think that, she said. Let them be confident. In a few weeks they will understand. We were never just workers. We were the foundation, and foundations do not beg for recognition. They simply stop holding things up. Outside her window, the lights of Earth glowed warm and bright. Humanity was home. And they would stay home until the galaxy learned a simple lesson. You do not mock the people who keep your civilization running, not unless you are prepared to watch it fall. The first real problem appeared on day 9. Station Gamma 7, a massive trade hub orbiting a blue giant star, lost power to its southern quadrant. This was not unusual. Power fluctuations happened. The station manager, a Quillan named Voss, sent a maintenance request to the human engineering team. No one responded. Voss checked the personnel files. The entire engineering department was listed as absent. He tried their personal communicators. Nothing. He walked down to the engineering bay himself. The huge room was empty. Tools sat on benches. Diagnostic screens glowed softly. But there were no humans. For the first time, Voss felt a cold spike of worry in his chest. He called his Quillan engineers. They arrived and stared at the complex systems. The power management console had over 3,000 controls. None of them knew where to start. Did the humans leave any instructions? One engineer asked. Voss searched the databases. He found maintenance logs, detailed technical reports, procedure manuals. But they were all written in human style, full of references to other systems and abbreviated notes that made sense only to someone with years of experience. They tried anyway. For 6 hours, the Quillan team worked on restoring power. They managed to make things worse. The southern quadrant went completely dark. Life support failed in 3 sections. 2,000 residents had to be evacuated. OND. Station Prime, Chairman Vexthor received the first damage report. He dismissed it as an isolated incident. Then the second report came, and the third. By the end of the week, 40 stations reported critical system failures. All of them had the same problem: no human staff. The chairman called his senior council members to a private meeting. They gathered in a secure room, away from the public chambers. This is more serious than we thought, admitted Councillor Reshipa. His purple plates had darkened with stress. The humans managed more systems than we realized. We have engineers from other species, Vexthor said. Assign them to cover the human positions. We already tried that, said Councillor Thex, who represented the mining worlds. Our people do not understand the human systems. The coding is too complex. The maintenance procedures are not written for anyone else to follow. Vexthor slammed a limb on the table. Then we hire new humans. There must be some who did not leave. Offer them double pay, triple pay. But there were no humans left in council space. Not one. And Earth was not answering any communications. The problems grew worse. On day 15, the first food shortage hit. The Quillan agricultural worlds produced enough food to feed billions. But getting that food to other worlds required a complex logistics network. Human trade managers had designed that network. They had optimized every route. They had calculated exact timing for perishable goods. Without them, the system collapsed. Ships arrived late or not at all. Cargo was loaded incorrectly. Perishable goods rotted in transit. Within 2 weeks, food prices doubled. Within 3 weeks, there were riots on 6 worlds. Dongmin watched the news from his apartment in Busan. He saw alien crowds fighting over food supplies. He saw empty store shelves. He felt no satisfaction, just a tired sadness. His wife, Hyojin, sat beside him. She had managed hospital supply chains for the council. She had ensured that medical equipment reached every clinic on time. "They are suffering," she said quietly. "Yes," Dongmin agreed. "Do you regret coming home?" He thought about that. He remembered his alien employers, how they had spoken to him like he was a servant, how they had never once asked his opinion, even though he knew more about trade routes than anyone, how they had paid him barely enough to survive while they lived in luxury. "No," he said, "I do not regret it." The medical crisis came next. Human doctors had staffed clinics across hundreds of worlds. They were good doctors, patient and skilled. But more importantly, human biomedical engineers had maintained all the diagnostic equipment, the scanners, the surgical machines, the life support systems. These machines were incredibly complex. On day 20, a major hospital on the Droxian homeworld lost its primary medical scanner. The head physician, a Droxian named Krex, called for the maintenance team. He was told there were no human engineers available. He was told they would send Droxian technicians instead. The technicians arrived. They opened the scanner and stared at the components inside. Thousands of parts, millions of connections. They spent 2 days trying to fix it. Instead, they damaged 3 other systems. The hospital had to close an entire wing. Krex sent a desperate message to the medical council. He explained the situation. He asked for help. The response told him to use alternative diagnostic methods. But there were no good alternatives. Without the scanners, they could not detect many diseases until it was too late. People began dying. Not many at first. 12 here, 20 there. But the numbers grew. Across council space, hospitals struggled. Without human engineers, their equipment failed. Without human doctors, they lacked staff. The death toll climbed. Ambassador Sung-ho received messages from his former alien colleagues. They were doctors he had worked with, good people who genuinely cared about their patients. "Please come back," one message said. "We need you. People are dying." Sung-ho stared at the message for a long time. He wanted to help. He was a doctor. Helping people was in his nature. But he remembered the council's laughter. He remembered being called adequate, functional, nothing special. He did not respond. Instead, he forwarded the message to the Earth government with a simple note. "They are learning." The transportation crisis hit hardest. Human pilots were the best in the galaxy. Everyone knew this, even if they did not admit it out loud. Humans flew the dangerous routes through asteroid fields. They navigated the strange gravity wells near black holes. They knew how to handle emergency situations. Other species could fly ships, but they avoided the hard routes. They played it safe. Now, without human pilots, the dangerous routes had no one to fly them. Trade between certain sectors stopped completely. Some aliens tried anyway. A Vrion captain named Thos decided he could navigate the core nebula. Humans did it all the time. How hard could it be? He lost his ship and his crew. The nebula's magnetic field scrambled his instruments. He flew blind and crashed into a hidden asteroid. 23 beings died. After that, no one else tried the dangerous routes. Entire regions became isolated. Colonies that depended on regular supply runs began to suffer. They rationed food. They conserved power. They waited for help that did not come. On day 35, the economic collapse began. Human financial analysts had managed the complex economic systems that kept the galactic market stable. They had created algorithms that predicted market trends. They had identified problems before they became crises. Without them, the markets became wild and unstable. Stock prices swung violently. Investors panicked. Banks that had seemed solid suddenly revealed hidden debts. Currency values crashed. Retirement funds disappeared overnight. Millions of aliens lost their life savings. Businesses went bankrupt. Unemployment surged. The economic pain spread across every world in council space. Council economist Vrel stood before Chairman Vexthor and delivered the worst news yet. The economic damage is severe, Vrel said. We estimate losses in the trillions. Multiple sectors are in complete collapse. If this continues for another month, we will face a depression unlike anything the Council has seen in 500 years. Vexthor felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear, real, cold fear. How do we fix this, he demanded. We need the humans back, Vrel said simply. They built these systems. Only they know how to repair them. Then contact Earth. Offer them whatever they want. We have been trying, Chairman. They are not responding to any communications. Vexthor stood and paced the room. His multiple limbs moved in agitation. They must respond eventually. They are not barbarians. They must see what is happening. But Earth remained silent. Humanity watched the galaxy burn and they said nothing. They had spoken once asking for respect. They had been laughed at. Now they would let their absence do the talking. On Earth, Ambassador Jiwoo met with the Global Council. They reviewed reports from Council space. The damage was extensive, worse than they had predicted. Should we reach out? Someone asked. Offer to negotiate? Jiwoo shook her head. Not yet. They need to understand what they lost. They need to feel real desperation. Only then will they truly change. And if they do not change? If they are too proud? Jiwoo looked out at the city beyond the window. Seoul glowed in the evening light. Earth was peaceful, prosperous. They did not need the council. Then we stay home, she said. And the galaxy learns to survive without us. Either way, we will never be mocked again. 3 months had passed since the last human left council space. The galaxy was falling apart. On the mining world of Vax Prime, the situation had become desperate. The planet's automated refineries processed rare metals that dozens of industries needed. For 30 years, human engineers had maintained the complex systems. The refineries ran smoothly, efficiently, producing exactly what was needed. Now the main refinery was offline. The Vax engineers had tried everything. They studied the human maintenance logs. They watched training videos. They brought in experts from other Vax colonies. Nothing worked. The refinery stayed dark and silent. Supervisor Kell stood in the control center, staring at screens full of error codes. His people were hungry. The refinery was their main source of income. Without it, they could not buy food from other worlds. They could not pay for medicine. Children were going to bed with empty stomachs. He had sent 43 messages to Earth, begging for help, offering payment, offering anything. Every message went unanswered. Why will they not respond? His assistant asked. Do they not care about our suffering? Kell thought about that. He remembered the human engineer who had trained his team. Her name was Haewon. She had been patient and kind. She had worked 18-hour days during emergencies. She had saved their refinery from 3 major disasters. Kell had never thanked her. Not once. He had thought of her as just another worker. Doing her job. Nothing special. Now she was gone and he finally understood how special she had been. They care, Kell said quietly. But caring is not enough anymore. We broke something that words cannot fix. The situation on Station Prime was even worse. The central hub of the Galactic Council was experiencing cascading system failures. The power grid failed twice a week. Water recycling was at 60% capacity. Waste management had stopped working in 3 sectors. The station was becoming unlivable. Chairman Vexthor had moved his office to a backup facility. Even there, the air smelled stale. The temperature was wrong. The lights flickered. He sat at his desk reviewing damage reports. They were all the same. System failed. Repairs unsuccessful. Situation critical. His chief of staff, a Quillan named Pex, entered with yet another report. The water situation is worse, Pex said. We are now rationing. 1 hour of water per resident per day. Can we evacuate some of the population? Fexthor asked. To where? Every station in the core systems is having the same problems. The outer stations are even worse. Some have been completely abandoned. Fexthor dropped the report on his desk. He felt old, tired. For the first time in his long life, he felt like he had made a terrible mistake. Tell me honestly, Pex, can we fix this without the humans? Pex was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. No, Chairman, we cannot. The humans did not just maintain our systems. They understood them in ways we never bothered to learn. They optimized them. They improved them. They made everything work better than it was designed to work. We do not even know how they did it. Then what do? We beg them to come back. We give them whatever they ask for. Fexthor laughed bitterly. We have been sending messages for weeks. They ignore us completely. Then we must make them an offer they cannot ignore. We must show we are serious about change. Meanwhile, the medical crisis had reached catastrophic levels. On the Droxian homeworld, Dr. Krex watched another patient die. The woman had a treatable disease. 6 months ago, they could have cured her easily. Now, without working diagnostic equipment, they had identified the problem too late. Krex removed his surgical gloves and walked out of the operating room. His staff looked at him with exhausted, hopeless eyes. They were all working 20-hour shifts. They were doing their best, but their best was not enough. How many does that make? His assistant asked quietly. Today? 17. This month? 432. The number hung in the air like a weight. 432 people who should still be alive. 432 families destroyed by grief. All because the Council had laughed at humanity's request for respect. Krex had never been political. He was a doctor. He cared about healing people, not about council politics. But now he understood that everything was connected. The decision to dismiss the humans had killed his patients as surely as any disease. He wrote a message to the medical council. He was angry, passionate. He demanded they do whatever necessary to bring the humans back. He sent it and did not care if it cost him his position. To his surprise, he received messages from hundreds of other doctors. They all said the same thing. Bring back the humans. Whatever it takes. The transportation crisis had grown even worse. With the dangerous routes closed, trade had become impossibly expensive. Ships had to take longer, safer routes. This meant higher fuel costs, longer travel times, more risk of spoilage. A cargo ship captain named Trell tried to calculate a profitable route from Quillan space to Droxian space. Before the humans left, this route took 4 days and cost reasonable amounts. Now the safest route took 15 days. The fuel cost was 3 times higher. By the time the cargo arrived, most profit was gone. Trell knew human pilots could still do the fast route. They had the skills, the knowledge, the courage. But there were no human pilots available. None at all. She thought about a human pilot she had known. His name was Bora. He had flown cargo ships for 20 years. He had never had an accident, never lost a shipment. He was the best pilot in the sector. Trell had never told him that. She had thought pilots were just pilots. Anyone could do it. Now she knew different. Now she would give anything to have Bora back in the pilot's chair. The economic collapse was complete. The galactic stock market had lost 80% of its value. Banks were failing every day. Millions of beings were unemployed. Governments were running out of money to pay basic services. Councillor Reshpa, who had mocked humanity's importance, stood before an angry crowd on his homeworld. They shouted at him, threw things. They blamed him for the crisis. They were right to blame him. You said we did not need the humans, someone yelled. You said they were nothing special. Look at us now. Reshba had no answer. His purple plates had turned almost gray with stress. He had lost everything. His position, his respect, his future, and he deserved it all. That night he wrote a personal message to Earth. Not an official council message, just a personal apology from one being to another. I was wrong, he wrote. I was arrogant and foolish. I did not see what you really meant to us. I laughed at your request for respect. Now my people are starving because of my pride. I am sorry. I know words are not enough. But I needed to say it. You deserved better from us. You deserved so much better. He sent the message and waited. No response came. He had not expected one. On Earth, Ambassador Jiwoo read Reshipa's message. She sat in her office in Geneva, looking at the words on her screen. She could hear the genuine regret in them, the real understanding of what had been lost. She forwarded the message to the Earth Council along with hundreds of others. They came from every level of galactic society, ordinary workers, doctors, engineers, even some council members, all of them saying the same thing. We were wrong. Please come back. The Earth Council met to discuss their response. The debate was intense. Some wanted to return immediately. Others wanted to wait longer. A few wanted to never return at all. President Daeun listened to all the arguments. Then she spoke. The galaxy is suffering. This is true. But we did not cause this suffering. We simply stopped preventing it. We held up a civilization that treated us as servants. Now they see what happens when the servants leave. So we should go back, someone asked. Eventually, Daeun said. But not yet. They are sorry now because they are hurting. We need them to be sorry because they understand what they did wrong. Those are different things. One lasts until the pain stops. The other lasts forever. How will we know when they truly understand? Daeun smiled slightly. They will show us. Real change is not words. It is actions. When they are ready to treat us as true equals, they will prove it. Until then, we wait. In council space, Chairman Vexthor finally understood what needed to happen. Words were not enough. Apologies were not enough. The council needed to fundamentally change how they saw humanity. He called an emergency session. Every counselor attended, even those who had to travel on failing ships through dangerous space. They all knew this was critical. Vexthor stood before them. He looked at the faces of beings from thousands of worlds. Many of them were angry, scared, desperate, good. They needed to feel those things to understand. We made a grave error, he began. We dismissed humanity as unremarkable. We treated them as tools to be used. We laughed at their request for equal representation, and now we are paying the price for that arrogance. Some counselors shifted uncomfortably. Others nodded in agreement. But offering apologies is not enough. The humans know we are sorry. They know we are suffering. They are not coming back because they are waiting for us to prove we have truly changed. So I propose something unprecedented. I propose we formally grant humanity full council membership, full voting rights, equal authority with any other member species. And we do this now while they are still gone. We prove we mean it by taking action first. The chamber was silent. Then Councillor Thex stood. I support this motion. The humans earned this right decades ago. We were too blind to see it. One by one, others of the official document arrived at Earth's United Government headquarters on a rainy Tuesday morning. It came through the emergency diplomatic channel, the one reserved for critical communications. The last time that channel had been used was during a near-war situation 20 years ago. Ambassador Jiwoo read the document 3 times. Then she called President Daeun. You need to see this, she said. An hour later, the entire Earth Council sat in the secure conference room. The document was displayed on the main screen. It was beautifully written, formal, heavy with legal language. But the meaning was clear. The Galactic Council, by unanimous vote, granted humanity full membership status, immediate voting rights, equal representation, full authority in all council decisions. The document was signed by every single counselor. Thousands of signatures, no exceptions. They actually did it, someone whispered. President Daeun studied the document carefully. She was looking for tricks, hidden clauses, ways they could take it back later. But she found nothing. The document was genuine, complete, binding. This is what we asked for, she said slowly. This is exactly what Jiwoo requested 3 months ago. So we accept? Asked Minister Kwan, who handled diplomatic relations. Not yet, Jiwoo said. Everyone looked at her. This is good. This is important. But it is still just words on paper. We need to see if they mean it. We need to test whether they have truly changed or if they are just desperate. Daeun nodded slowly. What do you suggest? We send a small delegation. Just observers. They go to Station Prime and watch how the council operates. If the council is serious about change, they will welcome our observers. If they are just trying to trick us into coming back, we will see it immediately. The council debated for 3 hours. Finally, they agreed. A small group would return to council space, but they would not resume their old jobs. They would only observe and report back. Commander Bora was chosen to lead the delegation. He was a decorated pilot who had spent 15 years in council space. He knew the stations. He knew the aliens. He would see through any deception. With him went 5 others. Hyo Jin, who had managed medical supplies. Tai Hyun, the communications expert. Dr. Min Suk, who had worked in alien hospitals. Engineer Young Ho, who had maintained power systems. And diplomat Hyo Jung, who would handle all official communications. They boarded a small Earth ship and made the journey to Station Prime. The trip took 4 days. They spent that time reviewing everything they knew about the current situation. The reports from Council Space were not good. Systems were still failing. People were still suffering. The question was whether the aliens had learned anything from it. When they arrived at Station Prime, Bora was shocked by what he saw. The great station looked sick. Lights flickered. Some sections were completely dark. Debris floated in the docking areas. Ships were damaged and poorly maintained. In just 3 months, everything had fallen apart. A Quillen official met them at the docking port. His name was Pex, and he was Chairman Vexthor's chief of staff. He looked exhausted. "Welcome," Pex said. "Thank you for coming. Even if you are just here to observe, your presence gives us hope." Bora nodded politely but said nothing. They followed Pex through the station corridors. The air smelled wrong, stale. The temperature was too cold. They passed aliens who looked thin and tired. Some stared at the humans with hungry eyes, not for food but for help. Hyojin felt uncomfortable. She wanted to stop and ask if everyone was okay. But she remembered her mission. Observe. Report. Do not get involved yet. They were given quarters in the diplomatic section. Even there, the problems were obvious. The water only worked for a few hours a day. The heating was broken. The communication system was full of static. That evening, Chairman Vexthor invited them to a formal dinner. It was held in a large hall that had once been beautiful. Now it looked worn, dirty. The food was simple, basic rations that tasted bland. Vexthor sat at the head of the table. Around him were the senior counselors. They all looked at the humans with expressions that mixed hope and shame. "We are grateful you came," Vexthor said. "I know you are only here to observe. But I want to explain what we have done." "And why we did it," Bora nodded. "We are listening." Vexthor took a deep breath. 3 months ago, Ambassador Jiwoo stood before this council and asked for equality. We laughed. We dismissed her request. We treated her and all of humanity as if you were beneath us. We were wrong. He paused. His translator made his next words very clear. We were not just wrong. We were blind, arrogant, foolish. We built our civilization on your labor and never acknowledged it. We took your contributions for granted. We assumed you were replaceable. We have spent 3 months learning exactly how wrong we were. Councillor Reshipa spoke next. His purple plates were still gray with stress. I was one of the worst offenders. I specifically said you were adequate. Nothing special. I have replayed those words in my mind 1,000 times. They shame me. You were never adequate. You were essential, and we refused to see it. Other councillors spoke. Each one admitted their mistakes, their prejudices, their blindness. Bora listened carefully. He was trained to detect lies, to see through false sincerity, but he found none. These beings were genuinely ashamed. After dinner, Vexthor gave them a tour of the station. He did not hide anything. He showed them the failing systems, the damaged equipment, the desperate conditions. This is what we did to ourselves, he said. When you left, we thought we could simply replace you. We learned very quickly that skills and experience cannot be replaced. They must be earned, respected, valued. They visited the medical center. Dr. Min-suk saw the broken equipment and felt her heart break. She was a doctor. She had taken an oath to help people. Seeing aliens suffer because of broken machines was almost physically painful. Dr. Krex, the head physician, showed them around. He looked like he had not slept in days. We are losing patients every day, he said quietly. Not because we are bad doctors, but because we lack the tools. The human engineers who maintained our equipment are gone. We tried to fix the machines ourselves. We made things worse. Minsuk looked at a diagnostic scanner. She knew this model. She had trained on it. She could fix it in her sleep. But she was here to observe, not to help. Not yet. They spent a week at Station Prime. Each day they saw more evidence of collapse. But they also saw something else. They saw aliens helping each other, sharing resources, working together. The crisis had brought out something good in them. On the 5th day, they attended a council session. It was the first session since humanity had been granted membership. The humans sat in special observer seats. They did not vote. They just watched. The council was debating a refugee crisis. 3 colonies had been abandoned due to system failures. Millions of beings needed new homes. The debate was about where they should go. Councillor Thex made a proposal. I suggest we use the old human residential zones. They are empty now. We can house the refugees there, several councillors agreed. It seemed like a practical solution. Then Councillor Resherpa stood up. Wait, he said. Those residential zones belong to humanity. Even though they are gone, we cannot just take their property. That would be another act of disrespect. We must find another solution. The council paused. Then they agreed. They spent 2 more hours finding different housing solutions. Solutions that did not involve taking human property. Bora watched this with interest. The council was actively protecting human rights, even though no humans were there to demand it. This was not just words. This was real change. That night, the delegation met privately in their quarters. What do you all think? Bora asked. Yojin spoke first. They are suffering. That part is real, not exaggerated. The change seems genuine too, added Taehyun. They are making different decisions. Better decisions. Young-ho nodded. I have been watching the engineering teams. They are trying so hard, they just do not have the knowledge. But they are not lazy or stupid. They just lack training. Dr. Minsuk had tears in her eyes. People are dying. I could save them. I know how to fix those machines. It is killing me to just watch. Bora understood. He felt the same way. He was a pilot. He had flown rescue missions, saved lives. Now he was watching a civilization fall apart and doing nothing. It went against everything he was. We need to ask ourselves a question, he said. Have they learned their lesson? Will this change last? Or will they go back to treating us as servants once things get better? They debated long into the night. Finally, they agreed. The change seemed real. The council had taken concrete actions. They had granted humanity equality in law. They were protecting human rights even in absence. And most importantly, they were humble now. They understood what they had lost. Bora sent a coded message to Earth. His report was detailed and honest. He recommended that Earth begin negotiations for a return, but a gradual return, with conditions, with protections to ensure the change was permanent. On Earth, President Da-un read the report. She called a special session of the Earth Council. They debated for 2 days. The decision was not easy. Trust once broken was hard to rebuild. Finally, Da-un made the announcement. Earth would negotiate a return to Council space, but it would be on Earth's terms. 6 months after humanity's silent departure, the first official delegation returned to Station Prime. Ambassador Jiwoo led them. She wore formal diplomatic robes in Earth blue. Behind her walked 50 humans. Engineers, doctors, pilots, administrators. Each one carefully chosen. Each one prepared for what came next. The docking bay was full of aliens. Thousands of them had gathered to watch the humans arrive. But this time there was no dismissive laughter. No bored expressions. Instead, the aliens stood in respectful silence. Many held signs with messages written in human languages. Welcome back. Thank you. We are sorry. Chairman Vexthor stood at the front of the crowd. He wore ceremonial robes that indicated deep respect. When Jiwoo stepped off the ship, he did something unprecedented. He bowed. A full formal bow that showed complete respect. Welcome home, Ambassador, he said. Welcome home, humanity. Jiwoo returned the bow. Not as deep. She was an equal now, not a subordinate. We are pleased to be here, Chairman. We hope this marks a new beginning for all of us. The formal ceremony was held in the Grand Council chamber. But the chamber had been changed. New seating had been added. A full section reserved for human delegates. The seats were positioned at the same level as all other council members. No higher, no lower, equal. Jiwoo took her seat. Around her sat other human representatives. Each one represented different Earth regions and different areas of expertise. They were now full voting members of the Galactic Council. Vexthor called the session to order. This is a historic day. For the first time in 3 months, we have our full council assembled. Humanity has returned, not as workers or servants, but as equal partners in galactic civilization. He paused and looked directly at the human section. We failed you once. We will not fail you again. This I swear on behalf of every member of this council. The session proceeded to normal business. A trade dispute between 2 systems. Funding for a scientific research station. Approval of new safety regulations. Small matters, but important ones. When votes were called, the human delegates participated fully. Their votes carried the same weight as any other species. On one issue, the human vote actually decided the outcome. No one complained. No one questioned it. This was the new reality. After the session, Jiwoo met privately with the senior counselors. They discussed the logistics of humanity's gradual return. We need engineers first, said Counselor Thex. Critical systems are still failing. People are still dying from preventable causes. We understand, Jiwoo said. We have prepared teams of engineers and doctors. They will deploy to the stations with the greatest need, but there are conditions. Of course, Vexthor said. What do you need? Fair wages. Standard galactic rates, not the reduced rates humans received before. Safe working conditions. Respect from the beings they work with. And most importantly, training. Your people need to learn these skills. Humans will not maintain your systems forever. You must become self-sufficient. The counselors agreed immediately. These were reasonable conditions. Fair conditions. They should have been standard all along. Over the next week, human teams deployed across council space. Engineer Haewon returned to the Vax mining worlds. She walked into the dead refinery where she had worked for 6 years. The Vax engineers were there, looking exhausted and defeated. Supervisor Kel saw her and his face showed pure relief. Haewon, thank you for coming back, she nodded. I am here to help. But things will be different now. I will fix your refinery. But while I do, your engineers will learn. They will watch. They will ask questions. And eventually they will be able to maintain it themselves. Yes, Kel said. Please teach us. We should have learned years ago. Haewon spent 2 weeks repairing the refinery. Every step she explained what she was doing and why. The Vax engineers took detailed notes. They asked hundreds of questions. She answered everyone with patience. When the refinery came back online, the whole colony celebrated. But Kel did not just thank Haewon. He thanked her properly. With genuine respect, with public recognition, he gave a speech praising her skills and knowledge. He made sure everyone knew that human expertise had saved them. Dr. Min-suk returned to the Droxian homeworld. Dr. Krex met her at the hospital with tears in his eyes. 17 people died today, he said. 17 more. I'm so tired of watching patients die. Min-suk put a hand on his shoulder. Show me the equipment. Let us fix it together. They worked side by side. Min-suk repaired the diagnostic scanner while explaining each step. Krex watched and learned. Other Droxian doctors gathered around, absorbing every detail. The scanner came back online. Immediately they used it to diagnose 3 patients who had been mystery cases. All 3 could now be treated. All 3 would live. Krex looked at Min-suk with immense gratitude. You saved them. You saved so many. We saved them, Min-suk corrected. You and me together. And tomorrow you will be able to do this without me. That is the goal. Pilot Bora took the first flight through the core nebula since the Exodus, the same route where Captain Thos had died. He flew with confidence and skill, navigating the magnetic fields like they were a simple road. But he did not fly alone. A young Vrillon pilot named Cess flew as his co-pilot. Bora explained every decision, every adjustment, every trick for reading the instruments. The nebula is not your enemy, he said. It is just a challenge. You learn its patterns. You respect its power. You stay alert. And you can fly it safely. Cess watched everything with intense focus. When they emerged from the nebula safely, she felt a surge of pride. She had learned something valuable, something that would save lives. Thank you for teaching me, she said. Thank you for wanting to learn, Bora replied. The return was not smooth everywhere. Some aliens still resented humanity. They felt embarrassed by their dependence. They made snide comments. They gave humans difficult assignments hoping they would fail, but the new agreements had teeth. When a station manager on Gamma Station treated human engineers poorly, Ambassador Jiwoo filed a formal complaint. The council investigated immediately. The manager was removed from their position. A public apology was issued. The message was clear. Discrimination would not be tolerated. Humanity had real power now, real protection. As weeks passed, more humans returned to council space. They came slowly, carefully, watching how things developed. They took positions in engineering, medicine, education, administration, but now they were paid fairly, treated with respect, given the recognition they deserved. Something else changed too. Other species began to stand up for themselves. The Quillan agricultural workers, who had also been undervalued, demanded better treatment. They pointed to humanity's example. If humans could demand respect and get it, why could not they? The council, humbled by their experience, listened. Reforms spread across galactic society. Fair wages became standard. Worker protections were strengthened. The whole civilization became more just. 1 year after the Exodus, Ambassador Jiwoo stood in the council chamber once again. This time she was giving a speech to mark the anniversary. 1 year ago I stood here and asked for equality, she said. I was laughed at, dismissed, told that humanity was adequate but nothing special. That rejection, that disrespect hurt deeply. But it also taught us something important. It taught us to value ourselves. She paused and looked around the chamber. Every seat was full. Every species was listening. When we left, we did not do it from anger. We did it from self-respect. We refused to accept being treated as less than we were, and in our absence you learned what we already knew, that every being has value, that no one is truly replaceable, that respect must be given, not earned through suffering. The galaxy is better now, not just because systems work again, but because we all understand each other better. We have built something new here, a true partnership, a real community, where every species is valued, where every contribution is recognized. Humanity is proud to be part of this new galactic civilization. We are proud to work alongside you, to learn from you, to teach you, to build the future together. As equals, the chamber erupted in applause. Not the polite, required applause of formal occasions. Real heartfelt appreciation. Aliens of every species stood and cheered. Chairman Vexthor approached Jiwoo after the speech. He looked old now. The crisis had aged him, but he also looked wiser. Thank you, he said simply, for coming back, for giving us another chance. Thank you for learning, Jiwoo replied, for truly changing. That took courage. In the weeks that followed, life in council space found a new normal. Humans and aliens worked together, not as masters and servants, not as superiors and inferiors, but as colleagues, as partners. As equals, on Station Prime, Tae-hyun worked in the communication center. He trained a team of Quillan technicians in network maintenance. They learned quickly, eager to understand the systems. When they succeeded in fixing a major problem without his help, he felt pride, not just in his own skills, but in their growth. On the Vax mining world, Supervisor Kel worked alongside Haewon. They were not just supervisor and worker anymore. They were friends. Colleagues who respected each other. When the refinery hit a new production record, they celebrated together on the Droxian homeworld. Dr. Krex and Dr. Min-suk published a joint research paper on diagnostic techniques. Their collaboration was groundbreaking.